Namu Amida Butsu. Honen the Buddhist saint. A. The meaning of Tariki illustrated. We have many cases of this other power principle, even in ordinary worldly matters. For example, if a person without feet or with broken thighs wishes to go on a long journey, seeing that he cannot do it himself, he rides in a boat or some vehicle and does it easily. This is not by his own power, but by the power of another. If this is true, a vehicle is made by crooked-hearted people who form the mass of the inhabitants of this wicked world. How much the less should we have any doubts about our being able to pass safely over the sea of birth and death, if we only get aboard that other power ship of the original vow, which Amida took 5 kalpas to make. Again, there is a mysterious power in herbs to heal disease, in the magnet to attract iron, in the musk to produce a fragrant odor, and in the horn of the rhinoceros to keep water from sticking to its surface. This is all true of vegetables and animals that are without minds and that make no vows, which nevertheless possess such wonderful power. Must there not then be a still more mysterious and mighty power in the law of the Buddhas? There is power enough in the Nembutsu, even if pronounced but once, to destroy all the sins whose effects have persisted through 80 billion of kalpas. And so you ought to bear in mind that Amida Buddha has the power to come forth to welcome to his land those oppressed by the very worst karma, and you ought to believe that by simply calling upon his name, you will be born there, quite irrespective of whether you have merit inherited from former lives or not, and no matter whether your sins be light or heavy. His promise that he will come forth from his paradise to welcome thither all, no matter whether they have broken the law or kept it, whether they be rich or poor, high or low, if only they but call upon his name, and thus have their natures changed as if from tiles or stones into gold. Repeat the Nembutsu audibly. A man would be very idle who would not even move his tongue when telling the beads on the rosary. Zendo, when explaining one of the 3 relationships which exist between men and Buddha, called the intimate relationship, said, when a sentient being worships the Buddha sees him. When men call upon him, he hears them. When they think upon him, he thinks upon them. And so the 3 forms of action, words, deeds, thoughts, of the Amida Buddha and of the devotees become one, like the intimacy of parents and children. And for this reason, it is called the relationship. Accordingly, if you have a rosary in your hand, you will see it. If then you think in your heart now the Buddha has his mind upon you, and therefore you are in the happy condition of those whom he sees and cares for. Nevertheless, you ought at least to move your tongue in prayer, so that your 3 forms of action will accord with those of the Buddha. I mean by the 3 forms of action those of the body, the mouth, and the heart. And you must remember that the voice is an essential element in calling upon the sacred name in harmony with the original vow. And by a loud voice, I mean one loud enough for you to hear with your own ears. Repeat the Nembutsu even during conversation. Silence is excellent, but it is wrong to suppose that there is less merit in repeating the Nembutsu while talking to others than when silent. The Nembutsu is compared to gold, which, when burned in the fire, only has its color improved and receives no injury, though thrown into the water. It is the same way that Nembutsu, though said when evil passions arise, is not defiled, nor does it lose its value, though said when you are in conversation with others. If you bear this in mind, it is all right to increase the number of Nembutsu repetitions at your discretion. If when you are in the act of talking to someone, you should all of a sudden bethink yourself, alas, the Nembutsu I was just saying is all to no purpose. Do not allow yourself to think for a moment. It matters not how you say it, for there is enough karma in it to result in Ojo, the escaped prisoner, and Amida's wonderful ship. You say you have no doubts about the original vow, and that you wish to go to the land of perfect bliss. But that, though knowing that one may certainly attain Ojo, you do not have an all-absorbing desire morning and night to get there as quickly as possible. This, I say, is very wrong of you. It is explained in the sutra that one who has heard of the doctrine of the Pure Land, but is like one who has not heard, has barely escaped from these three evil worlds, and is not yet rid of his sins. So I think that such one's detestation of this world is still very superficial. Suppose, for example, there is a man who has no mind to go down from the capital to one of the western provinces, and someone offers him a boat. Although he may have no doubt that a boat will float upon the water, yet seeing he does not think he has any need of one, he will not be special and grateful for the offer. Suppose again the case of a man long in prison, in his enemy's castle, who at last manages to escape. As he goes along the road, he comes to a wide river or to the sea, and he cannot possibly cross either. Now if at such a crisis his father, having gotten a boat ready beforehand, comes out to meet him, his joy will surely know no bounds. In like manner, when we are bound hand and foot by such enemies as covetousness, anger, and evil passion, and shut up in the burning prison house of the three worlds, if Amida, with all the deep sympathy of a compassionate mother, should come with the sharp sword of his sacred name, and cut the cords of birth and death with which we are fettered, should float the wonderful ship of his original vow upon the waves of our sea of sorrow, and bring us safely to the other shore, our tears of joy would flow like rivers, and unbounded indeed would be the thankfulness in our hearts. I would pity the man so insensate as not to have the very hairs of his head stand on end when contemplating such a deliverance. A man learns how to sin without having anyone teach him. In fact, from the beginning until now, while passing through the transmigratory rounds, although in outer form we change, yet in heart we are the same. And so in all sorts of ways we have learned the art of sinning, and go on sinning without any compunction. When therefore we begin the practice of the Nembutsu, and hope thereby to attain Ojo, seeing that this is the first mode of existence in which we have heard of such a thing, we find it hard all at once to exercise faith. Besides, men's hearts may be classified into two, viz., those of quick and those of dull faculties. The former readily come to understand, and the latter only after long and painful effort. They are like men going to visit a sacred place. The swift-footed man gets there in a few hours, while the slow man takes the whole day for it and gets there by dark. If only they have the mind to go, they both will accomplish the same object. Thus, if you are so minded and keep desiring it, you will in the course of time find that your faith becomes deeper and deeper. The very easiest way to Ojo. There are various kinds of Nembutsu, but the one which I advocate, repeating the 6 mystical characters, may be said to include all the other religious disciplines. The only thing is to put one's heartfelt trust in the original vow, repeat the sacred name with one's lips, and tell the rosary with one's fingers. It is the keeping of one's mind continual and fixed thereon which constitutes the karma resulting in certain Ojo. Seeing that the practice may be carried on whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, whensoever or wheresoever one may be, quite irrespective of whether one is impure in himself or in his speech, the Nembutsu is called an easy practice. Only remember that the first thing of all is to do it with a pure heart, and thus to exhort others to do it. You will then find that by degrees your heart will become purer and purer. Honen, the Buddhist saint. The Buddha Amida. What if my nature is bad? Do not be troubled about whether your heart is good or bad, or your sin light or grievous. Only determine in your heart that you will be born in the Pure Land, and so repeat the Namu Amida Butsu with your lips, and let the conviction accompany the sound of your voice that you will of a certainty be born into the Pure Land. Then, according to your determined faith, that karma will certainly be produced, with which will result in your birth into that land. Honen's gracious instruction to women. Once some refined nuns and lay women went to the Honen's house at Yoshimizu and asked him whether it was true that sinful women could, by simply repeating the Nembutsu, attain the bliss of the Pure Land. He at once graciously explained that Amida had merciful and made a special vow, providing for women's birth into the Pure Land, and that surely they ought to be grateful for such compassion. On hearing this, it is said that they all shed tears of joy and became devotees of the Nembutsu. Let not your faith be disturbed, not even by a Buddha. When Zendo says not to be disturbed in your faith by those whose thought and practice are different from yours, he means that just because someone of different religious ideas and practices had spoken to you something that seems good, you are not to abandon the Nembutsu nor indulge any doubts about the Ojo. Even though a Buddha with an aureole of light about his head should come and stretch out his tongue and say, "The thing is absurd that a common mortal full of evil passions and sins can be certain of Ojo merely by repeating the Nembutsu. Do not believe it. Even in such a case, I say, give no place to a single thought of doubt." I venture to say this because in fact the whole of the Buddhas with one mind are engaged in leading all sentient beings to salvation. First of all, Amida Naori made a vow and said, If after I attain Buddhahood, all sentient beings in the tender quarters desire to be born into my land, and call upon my name as many as 10 times in dependence upon the virtue of my vow, and still they should not be born, I shall not accept of perfect enlightenment. Now this vow has been fulfilled. He did become a Buddha, and the Buddha Shakya came into the world to expound this vow. Again, at this time the multitudes of Buddhas in the 6 quarters, innumerable as the sands in the Ganges, stretched forth their guileless tongues till they covered the great Chilocosm, and testified that there was no doubt about the truth of what the Buddha Shakya had said in praise of the original vow of Amida, and of his exhortation to all sentient beings, to the effect that if they would recall upon that Buddha's sacred name, they would be certain of Ojo, and so they should believe his word. Thus all the Buddhas, without exception, with one accord united in exhorting all common mortals with a view to their infallibly attaining Ojo. One Amida making the vow, another Shakya explaining it, and the others confirming it. And Amida and the Buddha would come and say such a thing as that they may not so be born, nay indeed. And even if, for the sake of argument, we should assume that Buddhas did so come, Zendo says, you are not even then to be disturbed. How much less in case a Bodhisattva or a common mortal should come with such a message? If then you are so minded, it matters not, even after you have heard the teaching heard the teaching about the Nembutsu Ojo and have begun the life of faith, whether anyone, whoever he may be, said such a thing, you are not to yield for a moment to thoughts of doubt. This is what we mean by a deep heart, a religious advisor at deathbed. It is said by some, and there seems some force in it, that even though one is in the habit of saying Nembutsu, if when he draws near the end of life, he is unable to converse with his religious teacher, it would be hard for him to attain Ojo. And again, when one is very sick and his mind disturbed, it would be similarly hard. But according to Zendo, when a man who has made up his mind to go to the land of bliss and repeats the Nembutsu, whether many times or few, comes to die, the Amida Buddha, with his retinue, does come forth to meet him. So, in the case of one who makes this his daily practice, even if there be no religious teacher near when he is on his deathbed, the Buddha will welcome him into that land. Mental composure in the death agony. It is a good thing for a man to pray that his last sickness may be as free from pain as possible. There are cases of men's dying without any sickness at all, and such are indeed beautiful. But the human body, made up of some 80,000 particles of sinful dust, from which issue innumerable disorders, is liable to suffer the pains of a death agony as excruciating as if one were pierced through and through by hundreds of thousands of swords and spears. Having eyes, he is like one having none, trying in vain to see, and his tongue stiffened so that he cannot say what he would. This is one of the 8 pains mortals suffer, the bitter pain of death. And so even the devotee who believes in the original vow and prays for Ojo, is unable to escape it. And yet, even though he becomes insensible through his agony when he comes to draw his last breath, he is, by the power of the Amida Buddha, kept in his right mind and attains Ojo. And yet, even though he becomes insensible through his agony when he comes to draw his last breath, he is, by the power of Amida Buddha, kept in his right mind and attains Ojo. The moment of death is no longer than the time it would take to cut a hair, and bystanders are unable to tell the exact frame of mind he is in, but it is known to the Buddha and to the dying man himself. Besides, the so-called 3 desires are at that moment awakened within him, and demons try to take advantage of him so that he loses his composure of mind. Now one's religious advisor is powerless to remove such affections, and it is by the power of the Amida Buddha alone that it can be done. We may depend upon it that the saying is true, the cords of all the evil karma are powerless to bind the one who calls on the sacred name. The Buddha's welcome to paradise. A certain man who was praying for the life beyond once said that if one only keeps his name composed, if one only keeps his mind composed and says the Nembutsu, the Buddha will come to welcome him. But it is said in the small Amita Sutra that the Buddha with all his retinue is right in front of the dying man, so that when he passes away, he has no distress of mind, but is born into that land of perfect bliss. Now the point to be observed is that just as one comes to the end of life, the Amida Buddha comes with his holy retinue right before the man's very eyes. It is after he has seen them that his mind is no longer in distress, and so he attains birth in the land of bliss. Instead of praying that when we die it may be of some very light disease, it would be better to spend the same time when in health in saying the Nembutsu over even once, so that when the end does come, you may be favored with the Amida Buddha's welcome, be able to get rid of those 3 evil desires, and with composed mind be born into the blissful land. And yet right here, there is need for caution. It does not mean that when you come to die, you have no need at all of a religious advisor, even though he be of small use to you. But as taught by our great teachers, when the end draws near, you should put an image or picture of the Amida Buddha on the west wall of your room, and facing westward, listen to the exhortation of your religious advisors, who tell you to repeat the Nembutsu. This, I say, is the desirable thing. No form of death incompatible with the Nembutsu. The fact is, no one knows beforehand just how he will die. It may be all of a sudden on the highway, it may be in the toilet, it may be that a man is cut down by a long sword or a dagger, that he is burned to death or drowns, for it is impossible for a man to escape the results of his former evil karma. And no matter what kind of death a man meets, if his daily practices, if he daily practices the Nembutsu and has made up his mind that he is going to the land of bliss, when he actually comes to the end, Amida, Kwanan, and Seishi do come forth to welcome him to that land, and we ought so to believe. It says in the Ojo Yoshu that quite apart from time, place, or other circumstances, if a man begins to pray for Ojo as he comes near to death, there is no method of salvation comparable with the Nembutsu, and truly this is so. Descent of Amida with the Bodhisattvas Kwanon and Seishi. Footnotes. 8. A Catechism. A man once asked Honen some 145 questions on the heart preparation needed for attaining Ojo, and he answered them all. I will now transcribe a few of them. Ojo, attainable by Nembutsu only. Question. Is it possible for a man to enter the Pure Land simply by concentrating the mind and the repetition of the Nembutsu, and doing nothing else, even though his heart undergoes no change? Answer. It is the rule with common men for their hearts to be in a state of confusion, and it cannot be helped. The only thing is that if men do concentrate their minds upon Amida and call upon his name, their sins will be destroyed and they will attain Ojo. Even sins more grievous than that of mental confusion disappear if men practice the Nembutsu. Fix the number of repetitions. Question. Even if we do not fix the number of times for repeating the Nembutsu as our daily task, is it not all right to do it as often as one can? Answer. It is better to fix the number lest you yield to laziness. Odors and Nembutsu. Question. Are we to practice the Nembutsu after eating leeks, onions, or venison while the scent of them still remains in the mouth? Answer. There is nothing whatever in the world that should interfere with the practice of the Nembutsu. Begin with 10,000. Question. How many repetitions of the sacred name should one regard as a day's work? Answer. Well, the number of Nembutsu repetitions may begin with 10,000 and then go on to 20, 30, 50, 60, or even 100,000. Everyone should, in their own heart and according to his own will, determine the number within these limits. Use of the sacred cord. Question. They say that the cord with the 5 colored strands is put into the Buddha's left hand, but in which of my hands should it be put, and how drawn when I come to die? Answer. It should be drawn by both hands. The merit of fasting. Question. Is there any merit in fasting from noon till dawn, and ought one to do it? Answer. There is merit in such fasting, especially on the 6 days of fasting appointed for each month. But in the case there is some matter of great importance, or one is ill, it is not necessary to do it, but only to repeat the Nembutsu, and one will thereby get free from the transmigratory round and attain Ojo. The merit of hearing another's Nembutsu. Question. Even if one does not see a Buddha, or fasten a cord from one's hand to the Buddha, or even call upon the sacred name oneself, is it possible to be born into the Pure Land at death merely by listening to others repeating the Nembutsu? Answer. It is not always necessary to fasten the cord to one's hand, nor to meet the Buddha face to face, but by means of the Nembutsu alone can one attain Ojo. And so long as one has a very deep faith, it is enough to listen to other men's repetitions of the Nembutsu. Can never fall from paradise. Question. Though one may wish to be eternally free from the experience of birth and death, and never be born again into this threefold world, is it true, as some say, that even after one has become a citizen of the land of perfect bliss, the karma which has brought him there loses its efficacy, and so that he may be born again here into this threefold world? Answer: such ideas are entirely wrong. If one is once born into the land of bliss, he will never return to this world, but for such one will attain Buddhahood. Only in case of one wishes to come back to save others, he may indeed do so, but by so doing, he does not again return to the round of birth and death. There is nothing better than the practice of the Nembutsu to get safely out of this threefold world and be born into the land of perfect bliss, so you ought to practice it most diligently. Poetry. Question: is it a sin to write or recite a poem? Answer: it is not necessarily wrong. It may indeed become a sin to a man, or it may prove meritorious. Sake. Question: is it a sin to drink sake? Answer: indeed one ought not to drink, but it is the way of the world. Religious advisor at deathbed. Question: when one is about to die, is it enough, in order to attain Ojo, to repeat the Nembutsu as one ordinarily does, without calling in a religious advisor? Answer: even though no religious advisor comes in, and one is not able to die as painlessly as he desires, he will attain Ojo if only he repeats the Nembutsu. Evil thoughts. Question: when evil thoughts keep arising within the mind, what ought one to do? Answer: the only thing to do is to repeat Nembutsu. Rinsing the mouth. Question: is it right to call upon the sacred name when going to bed or getting up without rinsing one's mouth? Answer: that does not matter. Leeks and onions. Question: how about eating leeks or onions on the 6 days of the month appointed for fasting? Answer: it is better not. The use of the rosary. Question: in one's daily religious exercises, which is the better of the two, telling the beads of the rosary some 60 or 100,000 times without stopping to count them one by one, or to do it only some 20 or 30,000 times, but repeat the Nembutsu every time the beads are told? Answer: it is the usual thing with the ordinary man to find it very hard to act upon the requirements of the law, even though he sets out to repeat it 20 or 30,000 times. The point is that you cannot repeat it too often, and so you need to repeat it continuously. It is not that a certain definite number is necessary at all, but that you keep repeating the Nembutsu. But we exhort to the repetition of a certain number of times so that people will not give way to laziness. Honen's Radiant Rosary. Bodily purification. Question: after one has eaten fish or fowl, ought he to purify his body before reading the sutras? Answer: the proper way is to read after such purification. Not to do so may bring merit, or it may result in sin. Only it is better to read them anyway, even though you do not purify your body. Reserve merit. Question: is it all right to make up on one day for religious duties that were neglected on another day? And may one store up merit now, so as to be forehanded for the future? Answer: it is all right to make up for past losses, but to be laying up for the future, forgetting the present, would tend to laziness. Ignorant priests. Question: is there any merit in bringing offerings to lawless or ignorant priests? Answer: we ought in these latter days to honor to lawless and ignorant priests even as to the Buddha. These words were written by Honen's own hand and inscribed on the back of the Amida Sutra. Calligraphy by Honen's own hand. 9. Honen on the three mental states. The meaning of the three mental attitudes. Anyone who thinks of birth into the Pure Land ought to give attention to what is meant by a religious frame of mind, faith, and also to his outward acts, works, properly adjusting the one to the other. Now, in reference to faith, it is stated in the Meditation Sutra that anyone who hopes to be born into that pure land must stir himself up to acquire the so-called three attitudes. The three attitudes of mind. What three mental attitudes do we mean? Well, the first is a most sincere heart, the second is a deep heart, and the third a heart which brings forward one's own merits and pleads them as one condition for the attainment of Ojo. Everyone who is possessed of the three mental states will assuredly be born into that land. A brief summary of the three mental attitudes. The so-called three mental attitudes are nothing else than a deep desire for Ojo. We call that a truly sincere heart, which prays without dissimulation or outward display. We call that a deep heart, which has not the least particle of doubt of being welcomed into that land at death, if we but say the Nembutsu from our inmost souls. We say a man has an earnestly desiring heart when he desires for himself birth into that land, and regards all his actions as contributing to the promotion of his Ojo. So he is possessed of these three mental states if he prays without dissimulation in the conviction that he shall truly attain Ojo. A most sincere heart. Now in Zendo means by the sincere heart is a heart true to the full, that is a heart which in every act of the body, in every word of the mouth, and every thought of the mind is true. In other words, a heart which is not empty within when pretending great things without, but while loathing this present swiftly passing world, it gives all heed to being completely furnished with that mind which yearns after the way of truth. B. A deep believing heart. In the second place, in regard to a deep heart, Zendo says in his commentary, a deep heart is one which believes deeply and may be said to be of two kinds. First of all, we must deeply believe that we are just common mortals possessed of evil passions and sins and subject to the law of birth and death, and that we have but a small and meager root of goodness within us. Also that we have always, from the most remote kalpas of past time, been subject to transmigration from one state to another, with no relationship to our hope of deliverance there. From then, secondly, we ought to believe that the Buddha Amida, and by his 48 vows, can deliver all sentient beings, and that if they call upon his sacred name at least 10 times, depending upon his vows, they shall be certain of birth into the Pure Land, so long as they do not indulge a single thought of doubt. Again, a deep heart is one which makes a strong determination to practice the law. According to the teaching of the Buddha, and never to give place to doubt. Do not draw back nor be moved by any other religious teaching or practice, or any contrary opinion or worldly matter. C. Zendo on a longing heart. In the third place, regarding what we call a heart which brings its own merit and pleads for its recognition, Zendo has the following exposition. By a longing heart, Shakyam means one which prays for birth into the Pure Land, presenting with a true and deep believing heart to Amida in the land of bliss, the whole of one's stock of merit, resulting from actions, whether worldly or religious, performed in the past or present, by one's body, mouth, or will, and also that merit which results from regarding with satisfaction similar actions performed by other men, whether common mortals or holy beings, and by the words, a heart which prays for birth into the Pure Land, presenting the whole of one's stock of merit. I mean that a man ought to have the thought and conviction of assuredly being born into that land, if he but brings all the merit above mentioned with a true and sincere heart, deeply believing, with a heart as strong as adamant, that is neither moved, confused, nor discomfited, no matter who comes with some opposite teaching or opinion or practice. Now the meaning of Zendo's exposition is, in the first place, that we must carry in our minds all the merit which we have acquired by action and speech in our former lives, as well as those we are now acquiring and continue seeking for Ojo, right up to the gate of paradise. Sometimes he would teach, sometimes not. Now the fact is that Honen sometimes used to teach the need of the three states of mind, and at other times does not need to know about them, and at others that one does not need to know about them. This depends upon the people whom he was talking. To a man who believes that by calling upon the sacred name he shall certainly be born into the Pure Land, and who sets his whole heart upon putting his trust in Amida, the three states of mind come naturally of their own accord. But to go to such a man and tell him over and over again that he ought to have those three mental states will rather only confuse him and hinder his faith. To such a man there is no use at all of insisting upon them. But on the other hand, if in the case of a man who is troubled by doubts and has not yet reached those mental states, if he but study the holy teachings of the sutras, his mind will submit itself to the reasonableness of the doctrine, and he will realize these three states within him. And so it is important for such a man to understand what the nature of those three states is, and it would be wrong for anyone absolutely to deny their importance. If we bear this in mind, we cannot say that there is any inconsistency in Honen's holding both views and urging them on occasion upon others. The most unlettered are capable of the three mental states. Again, in reference to the three mental states, there are some who say that if a man understands them when he repeats the Nembutsu, of course he will possess them, but in the case of ignorant people who do not know even the name of those states, how is it possible for them to have them? Now this too, I must repeat, is a great misconception. Even though one is so ignorant as not to know the names of these three mental states, if he only puts implicit trust in Amida's vow, with no doubt in his heart at all, and thus calls upon the sacred name, he is already in possession of these mental states. And so, if one practices the Nembutsu with this faith, these three states arise of their own accord within him. There are then, even among the most unlettered, those who practice the Nembutsu, and when they come to face death, they accomplish their birth into the Pure Land with complete